Hi, Deepti. What have you been finding for us?
Well, let's start with the center-left Israeli daily Haaretz today, which focuses on the Israel Defense Forces on its front page, freeing the south of the country from Hamas invaders. It says Haaretz is a paper that's traditionally quite critical of Benjamin Netanyahu. It also pens a scathing article you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner here, in which it calls him a criminal defendant who cannot and should not lead Israel. The columnist here saying it's impossible to ignore the connection between Netanyahu's corruption trial, the government's judicial overhaul, and the events of the weekend. From the conservative Jerusalem Post, today we have this article on its front page noting that more than 300,000 reservists have been called up. The paper also warning of a new front possibly emerging in the north on the border with Lebanon, but a front that is not fully fledged, at least not for the moment, the paper says. The Washington Post, for its part, ran this headline on its website this Tuesday: Netanyahu vowing attacks that will reverberate for generations to come. This as Hamas, of course, vowing to execute one hostage for every attack on a civilian home in the Gaza Strip without warning. The rhetoric, the paper says, but also the death tolls are mounting on both sides. Now, speaking of Gaza, then let's take you through some of the reactions to Israel's siege of Gaza. This from the Arab-speaking press. We have this one here, Al-Aqba, which is a Lebanese daily that's close to Hezbollah, which uses a biblical reference on its front page to reference Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's siege of Gaza, while saying defiantly that the resistance is holding up. We've been looking at some of the cartoons as well. This is from an Egyptian cartoonist. His name is Sharif Arafa, who brings us quite a visually arresting cartoon today that he says completely illustrates the fact that any hopes of peace or any kind of peace process in Israel and Palestine is sort of, at least for the moment, dead in the water. And you see that dove there being hanged. The Australian cartoonist Alan Moyer sums up the senselessness of of the violence that we've been seeing. He says that there are two guns there pointing at each other, one of tolerance and one of reason. Now, we've also been looking through some of the British dailies today. This is from the Daily Express, which calls the conflict a bloodbath. Pictures from both sides of the conflict. On the bottom left there, it's from trauma from Ashkelon, and on the right, this horrific picture of a bloodied little girl being held by a medic amid ruins in Gaza. I think the Sun perhaps best sums up the mood today. Only the beginning, it says in a rather ominous headline.
Meanwhile, Deepti, Politico today has been looking at how the conflict in Israel and Gaza could be beneficial for Russia's Vladimir Putin and, by extension, detrimental to the Ukrainians.
Yeah, that's right. It's a very interesting analysis piece today, Haxi. This is what Politico calls is Hamas's gift to Vladimir Putin. In its article, it actually explains that the attack on Saturday came on Vladimir Putin's birthday. Russia is relishing and partly fueling chaos in a series of global flashpoints that divert the West's efforts from Ukraine, is how it sums it up. It says, according to one EU observer, that attack on Israel could have been the best birthday gift for Vladimir Putin. He didn't ignite the crises, Politico says, but he's happy to, quote, slosh fuel on the fire, not just in this crisis, but the one in Nagorno-Karabakh and various conflicts in Africa as well. The conflict in Israel and Gaza also means now inevitably that U.S. attention and resources are diverted from Ukraine. The article all the while downplays Russia's role in the attack on Israel, but it does say that Moscow's political support for Hamas has possibly emboldened the group to undertake this brazen violence.
And finally, from you, Deepti, let's end with some controversy from Harvard University about a series of student groups' position on the conflict in Israel.
Yeah, the Daily Beast reports that 30 student groups on the weekend signed a letter. 30 student groups at Harvard University signed a letter in which they essentially, this letter you can see here, they essentially hold the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all the unfolding violence, saying that today's events did not occur in a vacuum, but it has been sort of the culmination of 2 decades of conflict and tensions. Now, the hardline tone in the letter has created controversy. Harvard's former President Lawrence Summers blasted the letter as morally unconscionable and also condemned the, quote, silence from Harvard's current leadership, led by Claudine Gay. Obviously, universities are traditionally bastions of free speech, but Summers said while there's nothing wrong with critiquing Israel's policies, Harvard's lack of condemnation at the letter at best appears neutral towards acts of terror against Israel. Maxine.
Diptyque Laurent with a look through the day's papers. Thank you very much indeed.